Here's the Pro-America Report with Ed Martin.
Welcome back. Ed Martin here on the Pro-America Report, touching base with our old friend Mike Davis and seeing what he's up to and what he thinks. He has been traveling the world. I think the last time, Mike, do we have you? Maybe we had you for collegians from Ireland. I'm not sure if you were, if it was on the show, but anyway, you've been traveling the world all over the place. Article3project.org, everybody. Article, the number 3, project.org. Find out more about the Article 3 project. So welcome back, Mike. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Ed, and I'm doing very well.
So first, reactions, your reaction to Dobbs.
It was a monumental decision. It's one of the most important decisions to come out of the Supreme Court in decades. It's up there with Brown versus Board of Education. And what it does correctly is it finally overrules a 49-year-old terrible precedent in Roe versus Wade and returns abortion regulations back to the states where they were for the first 200 years of our republic, and makes it where at the time in Roe, 7 unelected, lifetime appointed, pay-protected judges are not making abortion regulations for the entire country.
So, Mike, we're talking with Mike Davis, Article 3 Project. Mike, you clerked for the Supreme Court, and so you're around a community of people who are at their heart. They're some of the top lawyers, education-wise, but also skill set to get to clerk there. Usually, you're clerking in the AAA of the clerking situation in the Court of Appeals, Federal Court of Appeals, and all. But when you guys sit around and you're talking, because not everybody is liberal all the way, conservative all the way. There's lots of different mixes. Justice Alito, one of his former clerks, just resigned as the counsel to the White House. In other words, there's some crossover. I think Justice Thomas will periodically take a more liberal clerk. But when you all sit around and people think about this, isn't there something of a broader consensus that Roe v. Wade and then Casey was really poorly done? I mean, you may like the end. There's lots of people that are left-leaning that want abortion on demand and a right, but it was really sloppy. I mean, don't even liberals admit that are really smart?
Yeah, even the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg publicly stated that Roe versus Wade was decided on the wrong legal foundation. So yes, right. There's certainly a consensus. I think what the left did, what the abortion industry did, was push people just to mindlessly accept this idea that because it was wrongly decided 49 years ago, you should follow precedent and continue to apply this wrongly decided case for 49 years. And I would just say, okay, if we handled precedent that way, we would not have overturned Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal Jim Crow segregation,
right?
Then decided Brown versus Board of Education that overturned Plessy and
right.
Desegregated public schools and desegregated public life.
So, Mike, again, part of your public role has been persuading people of the importance of appointments and therefore judicial philosophy and all. And so when you say to people, hey, look, nothing was taken away from anybody. All that was made clear was the states can decide. And, some I get my listeners, probably some of them smile, some of them tease me by texting me because I quote her a lot. Naomi Wolf, the feminist who's, for abortion, said, Roe was a bad decision and Dobbs is a feminist decision because now women are the majority in a lot of states. They can decide if they want, if they really did vote in a block, which they don't, of course. But so that's all good. But when again, back to your role, Article 3 Project and other ways, persuading people, are you sensing after Roe that forget about the professional classes that fight about this, that regular people, interested people, smart people, attentive people, whatever, just a broad range, are seeing this Dobbs a little differently than the media thought that projected they would?
Yeah, I mean, just look at the polling on what people care about for the midterm elections, and abortions like at 1% or 2%. People care about inflation. They care about their kids' safety. They care about the economy. They care about oil prices. They don't care about Dobbs and the abortion decision. It's not going to affect them. And I think people understand that if Roe versus Wade was actually the most anti-democratic decision possible because it federalized all abortion regulations and took them out of the elective process. It's no longer our elected state representatives. Those who are closest to us are working with their communities to come up with abortion regulations. It was just, taken away from all of us. And I think with Dobbs, you're going to see these are going to be political debates, political fights in the state legislatures where they belong. And I always tell people, if you don't like abortion regulations, move to California. If you don't like COVID regulations, move to Florida. The Democrats kind of destroyed their two best arguments for Roe versus Wade during COVID. They my body, my choice went out the door with informed consent on experimental COVID vaccines. And then the woke left went after women and said that they're, birthing persons and we can't talk about women anymore. So there goes women and there goes my body, my choice.
We're talking with Mike Davis. Mike Davis, among other roles, he worked for the Senate, working with Senator Chuck Grassley on the Judiciary Committee. He himself clerked for Justice Gorsuch and played a role also in the appointments of Kavanaugh and others. Justice Kavanaugh. There was a brief firestorm of criticism. It didn't last. It was a bit silly, but I think it'd be helpful because your perspective would be interesting. That people said, "Oh, wait, Kavanaugh and Coney Barrett, they lied to us during the hearings. They lied to us during the interviews." How'd you respond? How do you react to that? Maybe better than respond. It's not your job to respond necessarily.
It's just political noise. I was the Senate staff leader for Justice Kavanaugh's confirmation. I was the outside leader for Justice Gorsuch's confirmation as his former law clerk. I worked on the Chief Justice's and Justice Alito's confirmations from the Bush 43 White House. And I, through the Article 3 project, we strongly supported Justice Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation. These Supreme Court nominees are federal judges. They are bound by the judicial canons. And their job is to say that they will follow precedent. And part of your job with following precedent is evaluating the precedent to determine whether A, it's still good law, and B, if it's not still good law, what are the consequences of overturning that? There are multi-factors that judges consider. And every judge does this. It would be like saying that Justice Kagan and Justice Sotomayor lied because they said that they would uphold the precedent in Heller and then they voted against gun rights. That's just not how it works. It's nonsense. It's political noise. And some of this is even coming from Republican politicians like Senator Susan Collins in Maine and Senator Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, two liberal women in the Senate. And I just think that they need to cool their jets, maybe do their homework a little bit more and stop accusing Supreme Court justices of unethical conduct, because nothing could be farther from the truth.
We're talking with Mike Davis. Article3project.org is his website. Article3project.org. The number 3 is how that's written. Mike, what about the marshal? I think it's the marshal. Is that the right term of the court? Writing a letter to the governor of Virginia and the governor of Maryland saying, please enforce your laws, or please, I think it's please enforce your laws, because there are laws on the books regarding not just picketing or protesting, but the kind of presence that's clearly meant to intimidate people. And the comeback from, I think both of them was, oh, federal government, you do your job. Where are we on this situation where we had targeted our justices because of the decisions?
So the marshal of the Supreme Court is the chief law enforcement officer of the Supreme Court. The marshal runs the Supreme Court police, which is like a 200-man police force. Where this has started is that after the Dobbs draft decision leaked about 2 months ago, these Supreme Court justices and their families were being threatened in their homes, such that several of them had to be removed from their homes. And even Justice Kavanaugh faced an assassination attempt with his wife and 2 young daughters in their homes. This is a serious, deadly game. We saw in 2020, Judge Esther Salas, an Obama appointee in New Jersey, had her son Daniel, 20-year-old son Daniel, murdered, and her husband Mark seriously wounded after someone doxed her home, and this madman showed up angry over a case that she was deciding. So there are federal statutes on the books that deal with these issues, including 18 USC 1507. It is obstruction of justice under federal criminal code to go to a federal judge's home for the purposes of intimidating them over a case. And the Attorney General Merrick Garland is squarely to blame for these illegal intimidation campaigns at these Supreme Court justices' homes that are putting these Supreme Court justices and their families at grave risk. He sent the FBI after every goofball and grandma who trespassed and took selfies on January 6th. He sicked the FBI after parents legally protesting at public school board meetings in Loudoun County, Virginia. He just sicked the Civil Rights Division after the state of Arizona for merely asking that people who are registering to vote prove that they're U.S. citizens. But Attorney General Merrick Garland can't be bothered to make arrests of people who are clearly obstructing justice by intimidating Supreme Court justices and their families in their homes. He's also done the same thing with pro-life pregnancy centers and Catholic churches. That's a violation of federal civil rights criminal statute to attack pregnancy centers, just like abortion clinics, and also churches, synagogues, mosques. But Merrick Garland, Merrick Garland's actually indicted 9 people in D.C. back in March for protesting at an abortion clinic, but he can't be bothered to arrest people or even make public statements about pro-life centers and churches. When Republicans take over the House in January, they need to impeach this man because it is a total dereliction of duty, and he's putting federal judges, Catholics, and Christians in grave danger with his amnesty.
We're talking with Mike Davis. Mike, same thing on the same follow-up on the Marshall question, though. I think a lot of people are now wondering, why haven't we heard who the leaker was? Why hasn't there been accountability? I mean, I know early on you, for reasons that had to do with safety, mostly said, hey, look, if there was a leak, it's a terrible violation, but get the opinion out, because the last thing we need is people festering in what might happen. Can I change history by, doing something terrible, which we saw the fruits of. Legit, it was a terror-filled 6 or 7 weeks because you wondered if someone was going to drive a truck bomb up against some justice's thing and say, now you don't have the majority, right? So we all got that. Where's the Marshall on the leak? I mean, the leak still is one of the more egregious violations of at least the norm, if not the law. What is your sense on that? I know you can't know for sure, but what are was it that they need to get out of this session, get all the cases out, get away for the break, and they're going to get to it? Or what do you think?
So I have not had any conversations with anyone inside that building about this investigation intentionally. But I would say this just from reading the public reporting. I understand there's an aggressive investigation going on inside that building, including questioning the law clerks, taking statements from the law clerks that are subject to 18 USC 1001. You can go to jail for making false statements. I think they're going to get to the bottom of this. They have to, and they have to because this is an unprecedented leak. I think it's one deranged law clerk, presumably from one of the liberal justices. Each justice has 4 law clerks. And so the 3 liberals have 12 law clerks. I think it's one of them. Based upon the circumstantial evidence, is maybe it's not fair for me to say that, but they have the access to the draft opinion and the deliberations of the justices that leaked to Politico twice, along with the motive to do it. I think they to question all of these law clerks, including these 12, get their emails, get their phone records, whatever it takes to get to the bottom of this. This cannot happen again. You cannot set a precedent where you're endangering the lives of Supreme Court justices and trying to change their vote on pending cases. We're not a third world banana republic. This is obstruction of justice. If you can show that the intent was to change a Justice Kavanaugh's vote, for example, they have to get to the bottom of this for the credibility of the court.
And again, I know you're predicting or guessing. If they do, the timeline wouldn't be based on anything we can see. It wouldn't be done before the court starts a session. If you had to guess, I mean, they start again in October. I mean, again, I think you taught me this. It shouldn't take that long. The universe is pretty small. Get them all in and say who did it, or did you do it, and let them either lie or not lie and figure it out.
So I do think that the Marshal of the Supreme Court minimally needs to put out a report of what they investigated, what they didn't investigate. This is much bigger than an internal HR matter for the Supreme Court. This affects the functioning of a separate branch of government. And I think that the Marshal of the Supreme Court has a duty to alert the public that everything is going to be okay inside the Supreme Court, and this is not going to be a regular practice.
Yeah.
So They have to get to the bottom of this.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to it. All right, Mike Davis, as always, thank you for your time. Again, article3project.org, article, the number 3project.org. Lots of there. I get, well, one more thing. I guess there's not much to comment on the new justice. Justice, is it, do we refer to her as Brown? Is it, or do you have to do the hyphenated name? But I mean, that went through, and it's sort of not much to say, right?
Justice Jackson is she's a justice on the Supreme Court. Justice Breyer has officially retired. Justice Breyer was a very good man. Each set of the law clerks does lunch with each one of the justices during the course of their clerkship. With Gorsuch's first clerks, we were only there for 3 months to get them set up at the end of the term, and each one of the justices met with us. Justice Breyer is funny. He's kind. He was very generous with his time. They may disagree, but it truly is a family inside of the Supreme Court. Sometimes it's a fighting family, but it's a family with the Supreme Court, and he will be missed on the Supreme Court. He's a very good man.
Well, Mike Davis knows a thing or two about fighting. Anyway, we'll go do that another time. Mike Davis, thanks for the time. We will put all this up on social media, and again, article3project.org, and we'll take a break, everybody. We'll be right back. It's Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report. Back in a moment.